Parents of teens, listen up, because I have found an awesome Bible discipleship program that I think you're going to love. If you want your teens to own their faith instead of just regurgitating Bible facts, you need to know about RVL Discipleship, the curriculum. It's a powerful new curriculum that's been designed for homeschooled teens from our friends at Focus on the Family. Each lesson is taught by awesome Bible teacher Ray Vanderlyn. His semester-long course takes teens beyond fill-in-the-blank lessons to real-life applications, helping them live out their faith with boldness and purpose. RVL curriculum is flexible, parent-friendly, and deeply engaging because it's been designed to spark real conversations about faith between you and your teens. Right now, you guys can get 2 free sample lessons at rvlcurriculum.com/HSJ, plus 10% off when you purchase the curriculum with code Heidi10. You guys, discipleship matters. Let's raise our kids to become lifelong disciples of Jesus. Go to rvlcurriculum.com/HSJ today. Anti-Semitism has been rising dramatically in the United States, particularly since the October 2023 Hamas attack on Israel, with reports indicating a record high of anti-Semitic incidents in the U.S. and globally. My guest today is Rob McCoy. He is the senior pastor at Godspeed Calvary Chapel in Thousand Oaks, California, and happens to be a dear friend of mine. And he's very involved with Turning Point Faith, and we're going to tackle this topic today. It's an important one, and I think we need to have a conversation about it. This is the Heidi St. John podcast. Today's podcast is being sponsored in part by my friends at the Functional Medical Institute. You guys can check them out at homeschoolhealth.com. Thanks for being here today. Grab a cup of coffee and stick around. I think you're going to be encouraged. Shout out to our sponsor, the Functional Medical Institute. I love those guys. Check them out at homeschoolhealth.com and be sure and use the coupon code Heidi for 20% off your entire purchase. Well, thank you guys for listening today. First of all, I should just apologize in advance. As you can tell, I'm having some trouble with my voice right now. And so that is why my friend, Pastor Rob McCoy, is going to be carrying the large portion of today's conversation. I'm so happy to have him here. Welcome back, my friends. Good to see you.
You too, Heidi. And I'll do all the talking if you want. Hey,
man, I would actually like for you to do almost all of the talking. We were talking before we started recording today.
Right.
Just kind of going over, what's happening in your life and what do you think is important to talk about. One of the first things you said to me was we need to talk about the rise of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
And it really kind of took me off guard a little bit. I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah.
What's happening that's put this front and center of your heart?
Well, you call it anti-Semitism, but I would say it's anti-Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're having, especially in Christendom and with the younger group of Christians, there's a move towards the idea, well, first of all, they struggle with dispensationalism, which is pretty prevalent in American Christianity.
So describe dispensationalism for people who are like, what?
Different periods of time where God reveals himself and he uses the Jews through a portion of that. It was a form of theology that was established by Darby, and it puts the Jewish people and the nation of Israel in a position prophetically that they're significant. And with replacement theology, they look at dispensationalism as problematic. And folks would say, well, the Reform movement is replacement theology. Well, that's not true, because you have John MacArthur, who's Reformed, but he's also a dispensationalist. So it mixes a little bit. I'm not really even interested in discussing the dispensationalism. I do know that the dispensationalism existed before Darby. All of the rumors that it was created by Jews and funded by Jews is absolute nonsense. But what I'm seeing is this unhealthy rise of anti-Jewishness, where, I call it the woke right. So the woke left would look at the inauguration of President Trump and they'd say, there's not enough color represented in the room. Mm-hmm. The woke right would say, there's too many Jews in the room. Mm-hmm. They call him Zion Dawn because he's going after anti-Semitism that's happening on college campuses. And now that we've gone through DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and critical race theory, which the lowest on the totem pole was a white heterosexual male, And now they're trying to find identity, so they look for someone that they can pick on. And you're drawn to somebody who, their ethnicity, their race is integrated in almost every vestige of society, whether it's the banking industry or it's government or, the diamond industry, healthcare. Mm-hmm. You're going to see an ethnic Jew in some capacity because they're well educated. They represent a very small portion of the population, but they're everywhere in regards to having significance. And so you can formulate all kinds of things. And then you have folks like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owen, who, I consider them very brilliant. And
what is going on with Candace Owens?
I don't know her as I don't know Candace as super well. I probably know her husband a little bit better. I've met her on a couple of occasions. I know that she seeks truth. Mm-hmm. I also know that she digs in to ask questions that most people won't ask, mm-hmm. and I think Tucker does the same. But sometimes you get people on the air that are sharing and leading you down a rabbit hole that if you do a little bit more research and look at original manuscripts, you'll start to realize they're not being factual. And Tucker embraced this idea of Jews being responsible for so many things. And they use this term synagogue of Satan, anti-Semites or anti-Jews. They use the term synagogue of Satan, which is in Revelation 2 and Revelation 3. Those who say they are Jews but are not. Well, then they're basically the idea is if you're not a Messianic Jew, you're in the synagogue of Satan. There's only two choices. Mm-hmm. And because of the atrocities of Israel, which just like America, they've got theirs. We have the experiments on the Tuskegee and we've got the smallpox blankets that we gave to, indigenous American Indians. We're responsible for some great atrocities. So is Israel. Mm-hmm. The USS Liberty was a real event. It was tragic. It was mm-hmm. wrong. Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that for a second, because that was sort of Candace Owens made a pretty big splash.
Yeah, and rightfully so.
Yes, talking about the USS Liberty. So bring my listeners up to speed on that.
So the USS Liberty, as best I can recall, the USS Liberty was a CIA operating ship, and the Israelis attacked it, and they knew it was an American ship. And they attacked the ship, and the sailors on board, U.S. sailors, they thought that the helicopters coming in.
Yeah, they were raising the American flag, saying, "Hey, we're friends."
Yeah, and they thought the IDF helicopters coming in and they could see that they knew that they were Americans, and they had been given clearance to destroy them. Mm-hmm. And one sailor recounting the death of his friend, he sees this IDF soldier flipping him off. Well, that would ingrain just bitterness and anger. Yeah. And it was an atrocious, heinous act.
What precipitated it?
Well, geopolitical. You got Johnson, who was president at the time. You've got a bunch of geopolitical issues going on. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but the inference is, especially with Candace and Tucker, is that Israel is the driver for America's foreign policy. We're their proxy. Mm-hmm. We do their bidding. I'd say we have common enemies. Mm-hmm. I'd say a portion of that's possibly true, but they go so far as there's and I can't say this with Candace and with Tucker, but I can say it with others. The idea of synagogue of Satan, that you dismiss an entire race of people, that they're not real Jews. I'd pause for a moment there, because then you go through, well, are they Sephardic? Are they Ashkenazi? The Ashkenazis are fake. And they go off on every tangent imaginable. And they go through the Rothschilds, which it's true. They controlled large swaths of money and still do to this day, and a number of other things. But we get to a place where you want to dismiss an entire group of people. And you do it because you have the term synagogue of Satan, mm-hmm. saying, well, they're not Messianic Jews, so they're not real Jews. They say they're Jews, but they're not. They haven't embraced the Messiah. They're secular. My question to you, Heidi, would be, what is an American? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, and are you an American by birth? You could be. Are you an American because you subscribe to ideals? You could be. What is acting un-American? What's acting un-Jewish? And when can you be considered a non-American? And the reason why I say that is because in Galatians chapter 3, is starting, I think, with verse 28, says that we're Greek and Jew, slave and free, male and female. So if you're male and female, and then the scripture goes on to say you're one in Christ. Okay, so we're one in Christ, but if I don't embrace Christ, am I still a male? If you don't embrace Christ, or if you were a slave and you don't embrace Christ, are you still a slave? Or, why is it that with Jew and Greek, that if you don't embrace Christ, you're no longer a Jew? Jew is ethnicity. It's also theology. And it's true that there are secular Jews that are responsible for great evil. But there is even further than that. There's just a hatred and an anger towards this race of people. And it's intrinsic almost to the point where you're looking for a Jew in every single scenario that the fault has. And if you see a Jewish name, it goes there.
It's interesting. I was in Washington, D.C. not too long ago, and I had, several hours to kill, and I thought, well, walk through the Holocaust Museum. I mean, I don't know if, listeners have ever been there, but it's quite an experience. And I've been there several times, which is why I thought I'll just go back through for a little refresher. And according to the Holocaust Museum, and this is what they said on their wall, anti-Semitism is the prejudice against or hatred of Jewish people. And it's manifesting itself in a number of ways in the United States right now. We're seeing a rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses, such that we've never seen.
Never seen it.
It's amazing where it's almost, to me, it's like someone had to give permission for that to happen. Because 15 years ago, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now. So someone, somewhere, an ideology has been loosed in the country, whatever, that has given permission. I mean, Trump's coming in and putting the kibosh on a lot of this stuff. But where do you think that's coming from, where our universities, Harvard comes to mind, are so openly anti-Jewish?
Yeah, and especially stating from the river to the sea.
They don't really even know what they're talking about.
No, they do. Many do. It's just complete annihilation of the Jewish race.
Well, yes, but I'm just saying the people that are out there screaming from the river to the sea, if you ask them what river and what sea, most of them don't even know what they're talking about. They're motivated by blind hatred.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's the complete annihilation of the Jews. Yeah.
Right. And you add to that, there was a two-state solution. And the Balfour Agreement, folks that want to twist it and make it so that, we can remove Jews from this equation. They're going to find a conspiracy in every capacity. So to say that Jews weren't in the region, they were, and even the word Palestinian is a Roman word, and Palestinian doesn't exist. They're Arabs, and there was a two-state solution. It was Jordan. And then there was, it's what in the Balfour Agreement that was given, and especially with the UN. And they have the oldest title deed of any nation on the face of the earth. When you look at Genesis, God giving the land to Abraham. And it's fascinating that they found the Dead Sea Scrolls in 47. Israel becomes a nation in 48. And they, it's the oldest title deed on the face of the earth. But folks, when you're given the lineage that the Messiah would come through your DNA, now you got a bullseye, and then you're a peculiar people because you've missed your Messiah, but you're still subscribing to the law, but you have no sacrifice for sins. And you look at the early church; they were all Jews. They embraced Christ. But then they start to differ, and then you see with the Mishnah and the you look at the writings of some of these rabbis. They're very anti-Christian in some of their writings. This is like 3rd and 4th century. Well, of course they are. They're trying to identify themselves, and they're losing their people to this new faith. But it still survived and existed, and are Ashkenazis ethnic Jews? Are Sephardics only the ethnic Jews? Well, if it's by faith, can you subscribe to Judaism? Can you be a convert to Judaism? Yes. So it is in the sum of it, it's just hatred. blind hatred.
You guys know how passionate I am to see parents discipling their children in the Bible. And while it doesn't have to be complicated, it does have to be intentional. That's why I'm excited to introduce you guys to the Illuminate Bible series from my friends at Lifestone Ministries. This is a Bible curriculum that's designed to grow with your child from first grade all the way through high school. So whether your child is just starting to read or asking deeper questions about faith and culture, Illuminate meets them right where they are and helps them build a lasting relationship with Jesus. Each week, you'll walk through a simple 5-step approach. You'll look at a Bible story, check out the context around it, see how it connects to the rest of Scripture, study the theology behind it, and find out what it means for real life. It's designed for families, so you don't need 5 different books for 5 different kids. You can go through it together using workbooks tailored to the ages of your kids. So if you've been looking for a way to disciple your kids without adding more stress to your day, this is it. For more information, visit lifestoneministries.com/Heidi to learn more about this amazing homeschooling tool. Were you surprised? So let's go back to October 7th, right? 2023. So Hamas unleashes a devastating terrorist attack in Israel. I mean, it was shocking. I think it was shocking to the world. But what was more shocking to me was the response of people that were like, yeah, go get them. Right? These paragliders dropping into music festivals, raping women, murdering people out on the streets, taking, untold numbers of hostages. It took a long time for us to even figure out how many people had been taken. But what was so shocking to me was 2 things: the lack of response from the church here in the United States, like silence of the church, which is consent, right?
Yeah. Silence and also, in the face of evil is complicit with evil itself.
Absolutely. And then the number of people who were protesting in favor of a terrorist organization that would commit these atrocities in the open.
Putting the meme of the paraglider in there.
Yes.
Descending to wreak devastation and havoc.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? So my first thought was, Jay and I were sitting down having dinner that night talking about the news like we often do. And I'm telling Jay, I'm like, this is coming out of our college. This is coming out of our universities. A lot of these young United States citizens who have been really inculcated now in a generation, this hatred for Israel.
I think it's a mixture of a little of everything. So like, let's take Candace Owen. She does investigative stuff, and there are things that have been glossed over and hidden. A lot like, Trump wanting to bring light to the JFK files and to the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. files, and, opening up these caches to sunlight and removing, the rot and the mold in there so that people can know the truth and the truth would set them free. Well, some of these things have been glossed over, and our nation was as complicit as Israel was with those type of things. So then you're suspect, as Americans are right now with our own government. We're suspect. But that doesn't mean we get to annihilate an entire race of people or deny the sovereignty of their borders. I mean, they were invaded. That's the bottom line. They were invaded, and their civilians were attacked, and then they fought back. They went to war, and they're still at war. And you have complete alignment with academia, I should say, in the secular progressive world and the Muslim world, where they want to wipe them off the face of the earth. And so when you have Queers for Palestine,
someone should tell them.
Yeah. None of you are going to be welcome to go over there.
Right.
Many of the people I've met that are replacement theologists or those that struggle over Israel, or even see Jews in Scripture in that capacity in the end times, eschatology, and all those types of things, most of them haven't been to Israel. I've been.
How important do you think that is?
I think it's a fascinating challenge to anyone's theology to go over to Israel and spend time observing things very clearly. For example, Palestinians can come into Israel, but Israelis can't go into Palestine. They'll be killed. And it's even said, it's not hard to find it. You just see the thing posted there. As you're going, through Ramallah, and you look at all these different areas, Jews aren't welcome. But Palestinians are welcome to come in to Israel. And then, as you travel, you see all of these excavations in territory that's held by the Israelis that are remarkable archaeological finds. You go in the Palestinian territory, and they're desecrated, they're poorly managed, they're in ruins, there isn't work being progressively done. And you see that our faith has been recorded through history and it's being preserved by the Jewish people. And these are secular archaeologists, for most intents and purposes, that dig where the Bible says something is and they find it. They don't want it to be there any more than,
right.
Satan does.
They're like, shoot, we found it.
It's there exactly where the Bible says it was. Mm-hmm. The city of David is one of the latest archaeological finds. It's right where the Bible said it was. And I mean, they have the toilet that David sat on, for goodness sake. You can see it when you go to the city of David. It's just fascinating finds, left and right. And this is all being revealed. And then, you see messianic prophecies fulfilled, that the nation's blooming. It exports all of its fruit into Western Europe. It's a breadbasket in regards to fruit, I should say, throughout the Western world. It's an amazing country. It's the only nation in the history of the world whose language was dead and has been revived as a national language. Imagine teaching an entire nation of people a language that none of them spoke, that would become the national language. All of your street signs, all of your education materials, all of your government documents are being put forward in a language that none of them are familiar with, but it's going to be a national language, the Hebrew language. There's so many things like that as you travel through, you're mesmerized. And then to meet what I call Messianic Jews, and it used to be that if you were a Messianic Jew, you had no right of return, which is what they give to, if you can prove your lineage through your mother's side, you have a right of return, because they need a population there. But they also have a high abortion rate. And then that's another one.
Of the highest in the world.
Yeah. And they call it the land of the living. But hey, you have to have an honest look. Mm-hmm. I am in no way disagreeing with the findings. Now, what they propose from the findings or what they assume from them, but I can look at the ugliest parts of their history, and it still doesn't change the fact that God's hand is there. And they're going to be judged as a nation. It doesn't mean because they're Jewish they're saved. It just means you bless them, God will bless you.
Well, it's interesting too.
And blessing doesn't mean turn a blind eye to all those things.
No, because what you're saying is we need to be really important not to conflate criticism of Israel or anti-Israel activism either with actual hatred of Jews or anti-Semitism.
The Jewish people, or I should say Sabras, those who are, born, raised in Israel, have lived with this their entire life. So they become prickly. That's what Sabra means. It's like a prickly pear. They become prickly towards, the propaganda that's leveled on them. They don't get a fair shake in the media. They feel overlooked. And then in the same regard, we see some of these things they're responsible for being glossed over and not being examined. And there's suspicion on both sides. And, walk in the light as he is in the light. We have to see these things. And I think that's the healthy tension, because I would be called anti-Semitic by those that are, zealot Sabras, that I'm not supporting Israel enough because of the things I'm saying. Well, I do support Israel. And then on this side, I'm considered a Zionist. And
wasn't it the same thing even in politics in the United States? Yeah. If you're supporting Donald Trump, but then you're not allowed to criticize him, suddenly now that becomes fanatical. We should be able to support Donald Trump and still be clear-eyed about things we disagree with, and that's really what you're saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great way to describe it.
I wonder what would happen. So I'm thinking, here in the Pacific Northwest, and you can go down to, Portland State University or any of the big universities that are right inside the city limits. And on any given day, there's a protest over, you name it. We're protesting over everything because it's Portland. Mm-hmm. But I've been really surprised at the number of protests aimed at Israel. Mm-hmm. And it begs the question of the church, because these issues are front and center for the church now. Historically in the United States, the church has been very supportive of Israel. As we've been taught, this is the biblical stance to take. What is the position, or should be the position, of God's people with regard to Israel, not being, obviously not being blind to their faults or things they have done wrong or things they will have done in the future, right?
Yeah.
But what should our stance be as Christians according to the Bible?
Biblical. We speak the truth in love, and that means exposing faults, being honest. Israel had one of the highest vaccination rates during COVID. Mm-hmm. It's the way I would equate it is the Jews in the concentration camps that are literally leading their own people into the gas chambers and then throwing their bodies into the furnaces. That was the medical industry giving these injections, third booster, a huge rate of myocarditis, pericarditis, miscarriages, and it's devastating to their country, as it is to any country that went that far. Mm-hmm. I mean, what Big Pharma did to the world and the World Economic Forum, which, by the way, interestingly enough, some of the things in the world that we despise, like communism, invented by Karl Marx, a Jew. His dad was a rabbi. He distanced himself from him. He wanted God out of the equation. Well, then you have the rise of Nazi Germany was as democratic socialism.
Democratic socialism is just socialism, correct?
Well, yeah.
It's like socialism light.
The government owns the means of industry and production, but there's an oligarchy or there's an elite group that is in favor with the leadership of the elites. Mm-hmm. They get to keep their industry and operate it. Communism is Democrat socialism is socialism, but they say Democrat, which is voted, but it's like socialism. Socialism is a pile of dog do, and Democrat socialism is sprinkles on top of it.
Yeah, right. When you vote for the dog do.
Yeah, but communism is this idea that it's a redistribution of wealth. There's no ownership, and everyone's equal. Mm-hmm. And this was created by a Jew. So those who had wealth watched with the Bolshevik Revolution that the peasantry class would rise up and take the wealth of the rich. They were fearful of that in Western Germany, in Western Europe. So this fascism created out of democratic socialism with the elites protecting through the means of production, being the government itself and being strong and militarily, and they contend. And that's where this anti-Semitism and the hatred for the Jews came, because they see this form of government coming to consume all of their wealth. And they create... So I'll show you a picture. People say Nazis, fascism, or democrat socialism is far right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then communism is far left. Well, that's just not how it is. Mm-hmm. It's more like a horseshoe. Communism and fascism, communism and democrat socialism are the two ends of the horseshoe, very close together. At the top, you have a constitutional republic, we the people. Mm-hmm. This is a bottom up. This is an oligarchy. The few rule the many, even in different formats, but that's mm-hmm. how they do it, and it's suppressive.
So you can be so far right that you're actually left.
Yeah, and so far left, you're actually right.
Yeah.
And when I say that, it's more, this is totalitarian rule. This is immense freedom. Mm-hmm. This is very close to totalitarianism, mm-hmm. and so this is already ingrained because there was already kind of a suspicion between Christians and Jews in Eastern Europe and also in Western Europe. Their traditions, the Jews after the diaspora, everywhere they ended, much like the Armenians, they end up and in the 1040 window, longitude and latitude, where 90% of the Muslim world exists, they end up in enclaves where they have wealth, they understand how to operate banking and the other things, and then to suppress the masses, which would probably, in this case, in the 1040 window, would be Islam, to stave that off, the dictators or the kings or the despots would surround themselves with the minorities, which would typically be Jews or some Christians, to suppress the Muslim world. And so they always found favor in these higher echelons. And then going into Eastern Europe and Western Europe, funding through Baron Rothschild and what they did. And all of a sudden a hatred, because they're peculiar people. They're walking through with phylacteries and they've got the yarmulkes on, and they're dietary, and they're homogenous. They stay within their own realm, and it's just It's odd.
When so many voices are trying to shape our kids, raising children who love the Lord and know what's true has never felt more urgent or more challenging. That's why I've teamed up with my friends at Brave Books to give you guys 2 tools to support you as parents and grandparents. A copy of my children's book, The Mouse and the Sea, and free access to Brave Plus, which is the streaming platform I trust with my own grandkids. You guys are going to get both for free when you become Brave Books subscribers and start receiving a new values-based children's story every month. Each one of them is going to be rooted in biblical truth. Now with Brave Plus, it's like getting 2 subscriptions in one. It's filled with kids' shows, all carefully vetted by real parents for mental, emotional, and spiritual impact. I've trusted Brave with my family for years, and I'm deeply grateful for how their stories unite families and shape kids' character for good. You can go to HeidiBrave.com to get your free book and streaming access right now. That's Heidi Brave, HEIDI Brave.com. It's interesting, God's definition of the Jewish people in the Old Testament is that they're stiff-necked.
Stiff-necked.
Call them a stiff-necked people.
Well, and then the idea that the church replaced Israel because of its atrocities. Well, if that can be held true, then God would replace the church. I mean, what we've been responsible for makes Israel look like nothing.
Oh, yeah, it's so true. It's so true.
You know, especially under our watch, 70 million babies aborted. Now we're allowing our children to be mutilated. We're permitting them in towns where churches exist for their children to have their genitals removed or to be given hormone blockers that will forever mar them and scar them. And we say nothing. We said nothing when 6.5 million Jews were incinerated. Instead, we changed the narrative, saying, "Oh, they didn't burn them. That's all made up." That's exactly why the General Eisenhower wanted pictures taken. He knew that they would say that. He knew it would come. We have unbelievable evidence in relation to that.
That's actually on the rise too. The Holocaust denying is on the rise too. I mean, the propaganda of that.
Yeah,
is
how can you
everywhere.
burn 6.5 million people that they wouldn't burn that fast? And you're like, there was nothing on them. They were all bones. And you're going to such extents to try to remove any sympathy for a race of people because you have a narrative in your head.
Well, you have to dehumanize them. And this is what we've done to the unborn, right? We've dehumanized the unborn. We've said that they're not a person, right? I mean, there's one of the most famous pictures that I can, in my mind, sort of seared into my mind from a pro-choice women's march, and I put that in air quotes because doesn't represent me as a woman, was a woman who looks to be about 7 or 8 months pregnant, and she's written on her belly, on her bare belly, "Not yet human." Such propaganda, such blindness, and yet we're there. I mean, we're there in the United States with the propaganda. We're there with the blindness. How important is it, Rob, that we get this right as a church? So historically, I kind of want to go back because I feel like there's more to unpack because the church, the modern church today, when I was growing up in the 70s, 80s, going to church, dude, we supported Israel. I mean, we all knew, I'm going to bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. And we supported Israel. And we're so far away from that now that I think a lot of churches refuse to even engage in the topic, a lot of pastors. What should our position be as Christians when it comes to the support of Israel? What's you said it's biblical use, but what is the biblical position? Why have we historically supported Israel? And what is going to happen to the United States on the day that we decide we no longer support Israel? Which, by the way, there are many people now right here in our system of government, sitting in our houses of representatives, both in the Senate and the House, who would pull our support from Israel in a New York minute if they had the majority.
And all you have to do is just look at who they're affiliated with.
Yeah.
This is the only Democrat. This is the only true democracy in that region of the world, 1040 window. The only legitimate democracy.
What do you mean by the 1040 window?
Longitude and latitude on the globe where 90% of the Muslim world exists. And we have a lot in common. And there are geopolitical issues such as oil and other things of that sort. But we're also dealing with Islam is a form of government disguised as a religion, Sharia law. Secular progressivism is a religion disguised as a political structure. The two morph towards each other. And the enemy, the common enemy, is going to be a constitutional republic or the nation of Israel. And go after them. Anyone who believes in God and absolutes and the Judeo-Christian ethic, where we get common law. Look, people keep crying out saying it's a constitutional crisis in America.
Right.
It's not a constitutional crisis in the way that they're describing. It's a constitutional crisis in the sense that we have a Christian form of government void of Christians participating. Common law comes directly out of the scriptures. The first 13 states, colonies in the U.S., in their constitution demanded that you had had a public profession of faith in Christ to hold office. We have a Christian form of government void of Christians participating. And as John Adams said, only a moral and religious people can govern a republic. Well, when we walk away from that, even Israel, when they walk away from faith, and that's why you see the Orthodox community, they're not required to serve in the IDF. They understand the need. This is like their Southern Baptist, an Orthodox Jew. They're in the scriptures on a regular basis, the Talmud, the Torah, and it's, you know, it's a nation of faith. They look at the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments. That this is the govern a nation, that you have, you know, one God, no idols, don't take the name of the Lord your God in vain, honor the Sabbath day, honor your mother and father, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't bear false witness, don't steal, and don't covet. And that is clearly in their culture. And there's something special and significant when you go there. You pray for the peace of Jerusalem. We also have a lot in common just as nations. We have common enemies. Now, it can be said probably that, you know, they may drive our foreign policy. We may drive their foreign policy. I can tell you right now, Trump's probably driving theirs.
I was going to say, I think you can make a greater case for we probably are driving at least a portion of their foreign policy based on the sheer size of the United States and the amount of power that we wield. Yeah. I think it's interesting to know, I don't know if you saw this in the news, but you're here with me in Washington State, and just recently Washington State became the first state in the United States to recognize Islamic holidays as state official unpaid holidays. And we're seeing a slow creep.
Well, and Sharia law.
Sharia law right here in the United States. What in the world is going on?
Yeah, it cannot work in unison with a constitutional republic, because Sharia law demands adherence by the populace. And if you don't,
you're dead.
Yeah, you will.
You're done.
They have the right to do that, or make your life miserable.
I did think one of the most interesting interviews I ever saw Candace Owens do was she had a Islamic teacher. What do you call them? I can't remember. It's
imam.
Yeah, she had an imam on her show, and this was several years ago. But she was asking, you know, what happens if someone is, you know, found in homosexuality? What if a woman commits adultery? And they are not shy about, like, well, we kill them. Then the Quran would say that they're to be put to death, right? And these people want to implement that law here in the United States. Which is the
antithesis of ours, which is due process, which comes from the scriptures.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. So if when you go
into partnership with the devil, you find out real quick you're a junior partner.
Whoa. That's good.
Yeah.
I should quote you.
That's not mine. If a bullet fits and you're going to shoot it, wait, that's probably not good.
I wonder, given the landscape right now as you see it, and with what Trump is doing, where do you see us going right now in our relationship with the United States, or with Israel first? And secondly, how do we combat anti-Semitism going forward? It seems like Trump is trying to make headway in the way that he's addressing, at least from the university standpoint, because now we're starting to see some of these guys are tucking and running already.
Yeah.
Where do you think this is headed?
I think if we get rid of DEI and critical race theory, and we get rid of the stupidity of the secular progressive left of men dominating women's sports and pretending to be women and all.
Are you saying it's all connected?
It is, because now all of a sudden you're not going to have an oppressed group in the totem pole of abused minorities, and white heterosexual males aren't going to be at the bottom of that. And, you're just trying to find someone lower than you to pick on. And I think if we just start building community and returning to the Lord, we're going to be in a better place. One of the things I do appreciate about President Trump is he doesn't want to see us in endless wars. He's been patient with Iran. I imagine Israel would long ago like to have bombed them and destroyed whatever. He's patient. He knows that Iran can't have the bomb. Now, back with the Shah of Iran, that may have been possible, but then you bring in an illiterate cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, under the Carter administration after he, bails on the Shah of Iran. And what was once our greatest ally and the person who balanced, the Middle East is now...
Talking about the Shah?
Yeah. In Iran, now the area that was once the mediator in all of that area is now the one that's pumping out all of terrorism around the world.
So interesting. If you look at pictures of Iran in 1977, or
beautiful skiing,
beautiful. Very westernized, really.
And they didn't consider themselves Muslim; they considered themselves Persian. And if you ask someone, "Are you from Iran?" they go, "No, I'm from Persia." Those are the ones that escaped before the Ayatollah Khomeini brought in Sharia law, and now it's just a miserable, awful place. Turkey used to be secular, and now they've got militant in there, and the Sharia law is making it even tougher. So, Israel's been pretty steady through the entire time. And they've been invaded. Their sovereign borders, they were recognized in the UN. They're just as legitimate as any other nation on the face of the earth, and they're attacked. They fight back. They gain land in the course of that.
Pretty normal.
And then they cede it back and give it, and
Let's switch gears for a second, because I want to, before we run out of time today, I want to talk about Trump. Okay, one of my favorite topics. So we've just passed recently his first 100 days.
Yeah. And
what's your assessment of the first 100 days of you first, and then I'll tell you mine. I want to know, what's your assessment overall of his administration? Then I'm curious to know what you think are some missteps as well.
Yeah. Do you remember after the election in 2020 and wearing a MAGA hat or affiliating with Trump, you were
ostracized.
You were crawling out of a hole. Yeah. You were so low you had to look up to see down. And it seemed as though everything we were hoping for was decimated, and even the way it was taken was painful.
Yeah.
And it's almost, and then we started seeing people we love being put in jail for the Fedsurrection, and we knew. And then we started seeing propaganda come in. It got worse and worse and worse.
It was like being taken into exile.
Darkness was over the land. And it almost seemed as though there was no hope. And the Bible says, in God's weakness, our strength is made perfect. During that entire time, you had a man that was facing 700 years in prison. Everyone affiliated with him was going to jail. They were trying to bankrupt him. They were trying to humiliate him. They're trying to destroy his family, his friends, anything they could.
Kill him.
Scorched earth policy.
Yep.
And he wins. But here's what's fascinating. The entire time in the 4 years of exile, much like Winston Churchill when he was relegated to the back bench of Parliament after the Dardanelles, Trump wasn't bitter. He was out there assessing the strength of the enemy and preparing. And the Bible says, run in such a way as to win. You put on the full armor of God. He came in more prepared in this second term with
Trump
4 years.
2.0.
I would say 4.0.
Yeah.
Because he went through the first administration, and imagine if we'd had back-to-back terms. Pence would be president in the next term, and he's the biggest crook out there. And all the people that betrayed him, that we started to see him, and all of us were it was almost like this one party system, and they were all intertwined. And Trump wasn't a divider; he was a highlighter. It's like he pulled the weed, and you could see where it was connected. And then he goes back and assesses and tries to build a cabinet now with wisdom. And he does a really good job. So when he hits the ground, the country was moving at the speed of Trump. They couldn't even keep up with him. It was shock and awe.
It was. Well, it still is.
It still is.
It still is. I want to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsor today. Today's show is being sponsored in part by my friends at Give, Send, Go. And it's a pretty amazing partnership because months ago, before I received my medical diagnosis, we had been hoping to partner with this amazing company. And I had no idea that I was going to be on the receiving end of a Give, Send, Go campaign. But I can tell you it's been an incredible blessing for me. And I love what these guys are doing. They are really crowdfunding with a gospel message and sharing the light of Christ and helping us fulfill the mandate in Galatians 6:2, where we are really commanded to bear one another's burdens and in so doing fulfill the law of Christ. One of the things that's awesome about Give, Send, Go is that they have a prayer team that you can join and pray for the campaigns that you see online. So even if you can't give right now, you can pray. There is power in your prayers, and I love what the Lord is doing through the platform at Give, Send, Go. Check them out at givesendgo.com.
The negative press is just relentless.
Yeah.
And he's even managed to curb them and provoke them to jealousy, especially with the White House press secretary and all that she's doing in relation to that. I think the man's brilliant. What he's doing with tariffs, it's going to be painful. But this is a man, he doesn't care.
No.
He doesn't care if you're going to lie about him, dump on him, trash him. He's going to do what he said he's going to do. You tried to kill him. You tried to bankrupt him. You tried to lawfare him. You tried to, whatever. He's done with it. He's going to, it's refreshing.
His numbers are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, even CNN, the only times I ever watch CNN are when I'm forced to watch it on an airplane or whatever. Yeah. And I was flying back from I don't know where recently, and they were doing a segment on Trump's first 100 days. And the correspondent was like, you got to hand it to him. Like, the left is screaming and yelling about what he's doing with illegal immigrants and deporting, MS-13 and Tren de Aragua gang members, which, hello, why are we arguing about this in this country?
No, he has.
Why is this even a thing? And this guy at CNN is like, turns out that most of the American people think that's okay.
Over 80%.
You think?
The transgender thing.
Yeah.
He's got them.
Democrats cannot read a room.
They don't even know what to do.
No.
Because they've been told all along that the press is for you. And the press is writing the narrative still. And they're listening to their own. But the American people have turned that off.
Yeah.
Ratings have plummeted.
Yeah.
And even when you see polling, his approval ratings are down. They've only got 39% Republicans in that polling when Trump won more than, because he won the popular vote. So you need more Republicans in that polling. You're 12 points off on that. If you add it correctly, because I used to work with AC Nielsen, it's projected data, the sampling is critical. You do it properly, his approval ratings are through the roof. And he knows it. He just reads a room. And anyone who's still banking against him is going to lose.
It's one thing I think is really interesting, and I'm fascinated. Trump is a fascinating figure. I don't think there's never going to be anyone like him in American politics.
He's going to go down as one of the greatest presidents in history.
Yeah, I agree. And when I met with him, it's been a couple of years ago now, and it was an extraordinary. As I look back on it now, it's even more extraordinary in hindsight that I get a phone call and they say, "Hey, can you fly out here to Bedminster and meet with Trump?" Well, the thing that was so shocking to me, because I got to spend an hour with him, pretty much just by myself. I mean, Susie Wiles came in for a little bit, but it was pretty much just me and him, shaking in my boots and my, in my 6-inch heels and my cocktail dress, and he is so disarming. Like in private, he's so disarming. And I was just listening to Bill Maher talk about his time with President Trump. And I said to my husband, I'm like, that's exactly how he was with me. Bill Maher's biggest takeaway was that Trump wanted to know what he thought. Trump's like, or Bill Maher's like,
always
I don't know.
He's always inquisitive.
He asked me. So we're sitting there. I don't know if I ever told you this, Rob, but we were sitting there in his office at his golf club in Bedminster. And this was happening during the G7 summit. And of course, there's a big, television on the wall in Trump's office. And he looks up and you can see, Joe Biden literally shuffling across the stage. And President Trump looks at me and he goes, Heidi, what do you think? And I'm like, does it really matter what I think? But he really genuinely wanted to know.
He gets a read on people.
He wanted to know what I thought. And I thought, here's a guy who just, the leader of the free world, right? Just hands me, tries to, I was too nervous to take it, tries to give me a Diet Coke, offers me a seat, asks me what I think about president. He really does love the country. Yeah. And he really does care about people.
He does.
And I, for one, I feel like he endorsed the wrong guy in my race. Whatever, I forgive him. Listen, I think this guy has done more for freedom, to advance freedom in this country, than any president ever in the history of the country.
Yeah.
And as I watch what I think is just getting started to do, he has to move faster than the speed of light. He has to move at the speed of Trump because he really only has 2 years. And this is where I kind of want to end my interview with you. I want to talk about this for a few minutes because he's moving really fast. He really only has 2 years. He could lose the House and the Senate in the next election. The Democrats are going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. So it's possible he could lose his majority, which he holds very narrowly right now, right? We got, knuckleheads coming out our ears in politics right now. So he's moving with the intention of knowing he's got to get as much done in the first 2 years as he possibly can because the Democrats are trying to make him a lame duck president, which is why I keep telling everybody, run for office. This is not the time. And I'd love to know, disagree with me, but I don't think this is the time for us to sit back and take a victory lap. I feel like this is all gas, no brakes. God's given us a reprieve. Let's go. What do you think?
I agree. And I don't think he's got 2 years. I think he's going to have the most successful 4 years of any president in American history. And when he leaves office, he's going to have the House and the Senate in a greater capacity because he has single-handedly destroyed their entire structure. He's dismantled them.
He really they don't know what to do.
They don't know what to stand upon. They don't know what to do. No. And they've got the press and everyone behind them, and they still can't gain traction. Mm-hmm. And they have nothing to run on.
Well, they're sending their senators down to Ecuador or El Salvador, down to El Salvador to stump on behalf of murderers and rapists. It's unbelievable. Yeah. I'm like, keep doing it. Rosie O'Donnell's left the country. We are winning. We're winning.
Well, then what's gonna need to happen is those that pretend to support him that don't are going to be revealed. Mm-hmm. Then a lot of them are going to be primaried. They're just going to get rid of them.
How
but you're watching the leadership in the Democratic Party retire.
Yeah.
They just and what do you have rising? Communism.
Yes. You got AOC. I think she's going to run for president, dude.
Oh, she is.
I think she's going to run.
Yeah.
I think, dude, 4 years ago, we were laughing at her. Well, I'm still laughing at her, but 4 years, she's a bartender. And I think she's going to make a serious bid. And the Democrat Party's so unhinged, I think they'd support her.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I still am worried, though, because Trump has such thin majorities in the House and the Senate. Like you take my state, for example, Washington State, we lost the seat that I ran for. It used to be a Republican and now it's a Democrat. How important is it, Rob, that people continue to engage and not like sit back and go, hey, we got this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we need voter ID.
Come on.
You have to be a citizen. And if Trump and the House and the Senate can pass that.
That's the SAVE Act.
It's a game changer.
Mm-hmm, I agree. And that will only relate to federal, though, not to state, right?
Yeah. But that's the House and the Senate.
Carry on. True.
Yeah.
Carry on. Yes. I agree.
So that, like in California, Republicans haven't won a statewide race for 25 years because you have Dominion. We don't even know. We've got 700,000 people that are ineligible in the rolls, and we can send letters to the counties and ask them to be taken off the rolls and on and on. But it's corrupt. And until we have a fair voting system,
with voter ID,
which is what he's committed to.
Yeah.
What he's committed to. It was almost at a point where anyone who's conservative was holding on to get the last piece of the pie before they threw the tin away.
Right.
And now all of a sudden, there's a new day in America, and folks that once had conservative ideas but were selling them for the bowl of red bean soup are saying, you know what, I was wrong. I need to get back into this patriotic mindset and love this country again instead of take from it. I love the idea that it's been reintroduced, the Pelosi Act, where, the Congress members, House members can't do any stock trading while they're in office. That'll just...
Duh.
Yeah.
These are like, duh, like...
Well, you would think an executive order, it required an executive order, presidential executive order, to state that there are only two sexes. This is a clown world.
Yeah, it is upside down.
And the previous administration was a complete joke. And Americans,
they pushed too far.
They did. They stole it,
overplayed their
and they
hand.
pushed too far.
Yeah,
but they almost pulled it off. It got to a point where we almost can't overcome the debt that we've incurred.
Which is
under their
why,
watch.
you made such a good point. This is why Trump's doing what he's doing with the economy. Sometimes people write in. In fact, I just answered a question here at the show last week when someone wrote in and said, I'm so sad because, they might be shutting down some of the national parks. I was like, listen, I love the national parks as much as the next guy. I got my national parks passport, and Trump's not doing what they said that he was doing. But even if he was, when your nation's at the verge of bankruptcy, we're at the jumping off place. Sometimes you got to shut the rides down at Disneyland, get your house in order.
Yeah, you don't realize the situation you're in because you've been taken care of your whole life, and then all of a sudden the house of cards collapses. It's any donkey can knock down a barn door, but only a carpenter can build one. And this man's building. His whole life he's been committed to building. The rest of the folks are just leeches. There's too many piglets, on the mother sow, and this man's building, and he's committed to that. And you're going to find petty issues to be frustrated with, but
someone said to me, I don't like him, he's bombastic. I'm like, you would be bombastic too if someone broke into your house in the middle of the night and went through your wife's underwear drawer.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite moments from the inauguration was watching Melania Trump get out of that car for the first time. And she's got that big wide rimmed black hat and her 8-inch stilettos. And she's like, you killed my father. Yeah. Prepare to die.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
That's exactly right. That's what I heard. I think you're right to say this is Trump 4.0. He's not messing around. There's not a moment to lose. This country is precious.
When he commented, God saved me to save this country, I remember Reagan. He was the first president I voted for when I was young. And I remember those words just resonated with me, that God picked this man. And Trump really believes that. He really believes that. I don't care if nobody out there believes it. He believes it. And he considers it a miracle.
It was a miracle.
I think it was.
Yeah.
Whether anyone else does or doesn't is irrelevant. Trump believes it was. And he's committed to that. He's unstoppable. And look, if we had such moral outrage that we would express it, why can't we express it? I was sitting across from a retired Navy captain, a Top Gun. He was a commander of a base before he retired. And this man is decrying Pete Hegseth with the Signal Gate. And I go, where's your feigned outrage? I mean, where were you with Lloyd Austin when 13 of our military personnel were killed and $70 billion in equipment was left on the tarmac with the keys in the helicopter? Where were you then? And you're upset about a signal deal? Where were you when Lloyd Austin went in for surgery and he was out cold without the president even knowing with the nuclear codes? Where was that feigned outrage? This is unbalanced. You have TDS.
Boy, it's real.
It is real.
Yeah.
This is a man who served our nation as a Navy captain. That's an 06. And he has such derangement syndrome. He can't even see the... He should understand. He's warped. He's got to come to this. Calm down. Calm down. And I fault the media. They're the ones who pump this into everybody.
Well, and Trump gets it. He knows
how to play him back.
He really does. I mean, it's kind of funny. What you think he's going to run for a third term? I mean, come on, he's floating. He is poking the bear so hard.
He's living in their head rent free.
He loves it, and he's just like
and posting all the illegal alien criminals that they've
right
arrested
across from their tents.
Yeah, and now they have to block them out. They have to blur them because it doesn't fit their agenda and their propaganda.
Yeah,
he's just playing them.
No, it's
he's
fantastic.
better at it than they are.
He's better at it than they are by a factor of 10. Today's podcast is being sponsored in part by my friends at the Functional Medical Institute. You guys know I love Doctors Mark and Michelle Sherwood. They are internationally recognized pioneers in the field of functional medicine, biohacking, and longevity, and they have been helping thousands of people transform their health by breaking free from chronic illnesses to achieve vibrant health. I love these guys. Their approaches are really unique and revolutionary, and they're helping people reverse chronic common disease processes and delivering real, lasting health transformations where traditional medicine often falls short. They tackle root causes and integrate advanced therapies like peptides. This is something I was telling you guys about. When I got my tumor diagnosis, one of the very first things that they did was put me on peptides. And it is remarkable what these guys are doing with hormones, supplementation, and functional nutrition, as well as cutting-edge data, including DNA and other advanced testing. And you guys can access them right from the comfort of your own home online. And I hope that you will, because they are producing unmatched, life-changing results. Check them out at homeschoolhealth.com and be sure to use the coupon code Heidi for 20% off whatever you order at the website. That's homeschoolhealth.com. I just feel like, dude, America, if God's people will engage. Here in Washington State in the last election, I had Brad Payne from the Washington Policy Institute of Washington come down and sit and kind of do an autopsy, for lack of a better word, on our last election. The state, not federal. 1.3 million Christians in Washington State did not vote in the last election. And if they would have voted, Rob, not only would we win, we'd win in a landslide. It wouldn't even be a contest.
Pastors are going to stand before God and give an accounting for that. It's criminal. I can't vote for a man who's been 3 times married and twice divorced. And I'm like, then take Samson out of the Hall of Faith. Name one moral thing about Samson's life.
David.
But Samson was in a prostitute's bed all night and the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. He went to go pay off a gambling debt and the Spirit of the Lord came upon him. Why would he be in the Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11? Judges 14:4, what Samson's parents didn't realize is God was seeking an occasion to move against the Philistines. Samson was prepared to do what God's people weren't. Vanquish the evil in the land.
David too.
But let's look at Trump because, look, I'm not a dominionist, but there are 7 cultural areas that are 7 areas that move culture distinctly. Arts, entertainment, media, business, politics, education, religion, and family.
And Christians belong in all of them.
But let's take a look. For all those pastors out there that don't do politics, which is the highest form of community, it combines morality with sociability. Polis means the affairs of the city. Pray for the peace of the city. Jeremiah, for in his peace you'll have peace. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments hang the law and prophets. Of course, the reason why pastors don't do politics, they just preach the gospel, is because they're Gnostics. They're Gnostics. They're heretics. They don't care about their neighbor. They're lazy. And they're going to be accountable.
And they're cowards.
And Revelation 21, that's dangerous ground to be playing in.
Yep.
But let's look at the man that you disdain who's been 3 times married, twice divorced, that you don't want anything to do with. In these areas that move culture, let's go arts and entertainment. He had the #1 television show in America. Let's look at media. He won the first election with a Twitter account.
It's true.
He was so successful, they banned him from that.
So true.
He took out 17, this is politics now. He took out 17 Republican candidates and the most heavily funded Democrat candidate in the history of our country. He's the only second president to win not consecutive terms. Let's take a look at family. Yeah, 3 times married, twice divorced. His ex-wives, once passed, but his ex-wives adored him, had great relationship with him, and his kids are all successful in their own right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you business, the Trump brand is world-renowned.
Mm-hmm.
You can go on, and him proclaiming the gospel like he's done on a number of occasions and really pressing into the Lord in this second term. There's no president who's done more for life in modern American history than him.
Boy, it's so true.
And if there's pastors still out there, you know, putting their finger in the air to see which way all the consensus is blowing, you're a coward. Mm-hmm. This man is contending for lives. He stood and that presidential executive order declaring 2 sexes. Mm-hmm. And yet you're going to read out of Genesis, in the beginning, God created the male and female, and you're not going to do anything? Mm-hmm. And you declare that your Savior is the truth?
It's so frustrating. I just want to tell these, like, get off the field because you're just in the way.
Yeah, you are.
Right? If you're not going to get onto the field and play the game and run the race to win and be able to read the room and see what God is doing.
Samson didn't take the high priest out of the temple. He took Samson. Mm-hmm. He was a baller. Mm-hmm. He was a warrior. Mm-hmm. So
I think it's interesting to
follow or get out of the way.
That's what I think. And to me, there's so much to be done, and there's such opportunity if God's people would engage. If God's people would engage, we'd see revival overnight. I mean, we would see systemic change because it would come from the churches, where it should come from in the first place. But as I'm watching what Trump is doing, and I see people singing Amazing Grace in the halls of the White House again. Yep. It's powerful.
He's going to provoke him to jealousy. And all of those over 1 million Christians in Washington, as you're watching your state burn.
Which it is.
The West is the laughing stock of the world. Your children are being mutilated. They're being told they can be the opposite sex.
You're being taxed out of your homes.
You're being taxed out of your homes. Your children, all the stuff that God blessed you with is being dissolved because of your apathy and inactivity.
Come on.
And you're going to stand before God and you're going to say, I buried that talent. You have nothing to show for it. It's dwindling away.
Because your talent was your vote.
Exactly. Participating in the ecclesia, which is right in the center. Jesus said, upon this rock, up at Caesarea Philippi, upon this rock I will build my, and everyone says church, but that's not the word. That word didn't come till hundreds of years later. He deliberately avoided a religious term. He didn't say synagogue. He didn't say temple. He used a secular term that had been in use hundreds of years, already defined by Aristotle, ecclesia or ecclesia, which means public square or city hall. And upon that rock I will build my public square, and the gates, which enslave, will not prevail. The law can be the wise restraints that make men free, because Jesus was talking about the beware of the leaven of the Pharisees, Sadducees, and of Herod. The leaven there is civil law apart from moral law. When you apply the moral law to civil law, it's the wise restraints that make men free. When you remove the moral law, the civil law becomes a weapon to enslave. And you will know the truth. The moral law, you'll know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And that's our calling. Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father in heaven. And upon this rock, that profession of faith, I will build my city hall. People will know the truth. The truth will set them free. The gates of hell will not prevail. No more enslavement. No more lies. And instead, we replace it with church, and we say we don't do politics. We just preach the gospel. What kind of gospel are you talking about that has no ability to set the captives free?
Come on.
It's toothless. And your gospel is Gnosticism, is what it is. It's frustrating.
It's so frustrating. And I think, as you're talking, I can sit here and get tears in my eyes because I think about California, one of the most beautiful places on the face of the earth, by the way. I mean,
I have a statistic for you when you're done.
And I think of Oregon.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Washington.
Yep.
These beautiful places that God has blessed with, just just
Jim Elliot comes from this region, the greatest launch in missionaries.
Yeah, the creation alone. And I weep over it.
Yeah.
Because God loves this area.
This was so rich with Christian.
Yes. And I mean, I grew up here, and people will say, oh, you're from Portland. Rob, I grew up, it wasn't like this when I was growing up. But Christians decided that we don't belong in politics, and we ceded the territory to the enemy, and now he owns it.
Yep.
And so we're not just going to get it back.
While we were busy playing church, the secular progressive left took over the ecclesia.
100%. And it just makes me weep. I love this area. And I feel like, every time I go to California, I was with your friends down in, your friend, Kim, the Ben Guards.
Yeah,
oh
Tom
my goodness. And then you introduced me to them, and I got to stay at their house, and I was like, this is heaven.
It's beautiful.
I sat on the backyard with Kim on her back deck, watched the ocean roll in.
It's like the treehouse, they call it.
I know. I said, this is heaven. Why would we not fight for it?
Tom McClintock, Congressman McClintock, said, what could cause someone to leave the beauty of California? And when I say beauty, you can be surfing, and I've done this. You can be surfing in the morning. You can be snow skiing in the afternoon, and you can be in the desert dirt bike riding at sunset all in one day.
Yeah.
And it's gorgeous the entire day.
It's extraordinary.
What can cause someone to leave the beauty of California for the flatlands of Texas and the deserts of Nevada? He said one thing: bad government.
Yep.
And I share this.
100%.
I share this, and that we can close with this if you want. But I'm affiliated with a group of churches called Calvary Chapel. They started in 1967 with Chuck Smith. In 1967, he started in California, Costa Mesa, actually. In 1967, Reagan was governor of California. We had the fourth largest GDP, gross domestic production, of any nation in the world. We just completed the California Aqueduct, which was a marvel in civil engineering that takes the snowfall of the Sierras and brings it to the most fertile farmland in the world. The San Joaquin Valley produces more cotton than the entire South combined. The state is stunning. The oil reserves are unbelievable. We rival Texas. And the wealth, there's a reason why they call it the Golden State. Gold is still prevalent in the Sierras. And it's just a stunning. And that was 1967. Chuck starts it. Well, in 1967, when he starts Calvary Chapel and Reagan's governor, it was also a troublesome year, because in 1967, Bobby Kennedy was shot by Sirhan Sirhan in the Hilton in L.A. He was running he was going to be the Democratic, candidate for presidency. His brother had just been killed. Previous to that, he was president of the United States, John F. Kennedy. And then 1967, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed on the balcony of the motel in Memphis, Tennessee. We had the My Lai massacre in Vietnam. All of our young people weren't finding answers in the church, so they checked out of the church into Eastern religion and experimental drug use, and they ended up awash on the shores of California, burned out hippies, while all their friends were dying in hamlets in some Asian country of the villages they couldn't even pronounce. And there's riots the following year at Kent State, the Kent State shootings. And they just checked out. And they ended up awash on the shores of California, burned out hippies. And Chuck and Kay looked out at the sea of humanity, and they realized they'd been wanting hope and change, but all their political leaders were dead, and their friends were dying, and they were disillusioned and burned out. So he avoids politics, and he does what he says. He keeps the main thing the plain thing, and the plain thing the main thing. He taught the Bible verse by verse, chapter by chapter, book by book, which at that time was a novelty because churches had gotten so cold and dead. Nobody even knew how to teach the Bible anymore. So Chuck just starts simply teaching the Bible. And he allows syncopated rhythms into the church and does Maranatha music with electric. Hey, music's subjective. Let's do it. They can still worship him in their own tongue, right? And this model, but he avoided politics. This model created 10,000% growth since 1967. There's now over 1,800 Calvary chapels around the world, one of the fastest growing mission movements in modern history.
Also, they handled COVID better than any denomination, I will say. I think for the most part.
Yeah. They still struggle. But anyways.
Yeah, well, everyone struggled to a point. But I mean, for my traveling during that whole thing, it was the Calvary chapels that opened.
Still employed, right?
Yeah.
Think about this, though, Heidi. Of the 1,800 Calvary chapels around the world, the lion's share of those are in Southern California. So you go south of Van Nuys, which is kind of mid-LA County, to the Mexican border, there's more Calvary chapels than there are Dunkin' Donuts. At one point, 4 of the 10 largest churches in America were Calvary chapels. We had the Harvest Crusades with Greg Laurie and Somebody Loves You Crusades with Raul Reese. This was conversion growth, not transfer growth. We weren't stealing from other churches. This was a revival, as the Jesus movement. So how did this 10,000% growth change the state of California? They avoided politics, but they preached the gospel, the entire word of 66 books of the Bible. I've been through the Bible 3 times in its entirety in the years I've been teaching at Godspeak. I have a systematic study of the scriptures. How's it changed California? Well, we no longer have the 4th largest GDP. We now have the 5th, maybe 6th. We have the highest gas tax, sales tax, income tax, corporate tax. We lead the nation in debt. You combine the next 4 largest state debts, it doesn't equal the debt of California. We're the authors of No Fault Divorce, because we don't do politics in the church. We're the authors of No Fault Divorce, which Reagan signed in 69, became law in 70, and decimated marriage across the country. We're the authors of transgender bathroom bills and the most secular progressive sexual education curriculum that's so vile you can't read a page of it from the church. And here's the kicker. California leads the nation in abortion. And we don't just rip the baby apart in the womb of its mother and flush its parts into the sewer system of the state. No. We harvest the organs on the downbeat of the heart, and we make Nazi Germany look like Girl Scouts. Where's the power of that gospel and the 10,000% growth? With the major churches being all throughout Southern California and the lion's share of those Calvary chapels. And we preach the gospel and we teach the whole counsel of God's word, but we avoid politics. Where's the power of that gospel? And Chuck, bless his heart, he encouraged me. He said, Rob, you're doing the right thing. And I was blessed by him. He went to be with the Lord. And some of the Calvaries, like you said, stayed open and some folded. We're just a microcosmic picture of the larger church in America.
Well, and when we ceded the territory, when we decided that Christians don't belong in politics, it's what you and I had said earlier. Politics determines policy, and policy shapes the nation. Why would Christians not want to be in the policy shaping business?
Yeah, especially if we protect the children from the slaughter.
Come on.
He who knows the good to do and doesn't do it, to him it is sin.
Amen. Well, I'm always so encouraged by you. You do quite a bit of work with Turning Point. And what's your official capacity there? You sit on the board of directors. I know you work with Turning Point Faith. What's your official capacity at Turning Point?
I don't really have one. I mean, I've been called co-chair of TPUSA Faith.
Yes.
Charlie oftentimes calls me his pastor.
It's fair to say you've had tremendous influence there.
Yeah, and the title's irrelevant to me. I'm probably one of the most blessed men on the face of the earth that Charlie Kirk would even call me friend. I think so highly of him. You know, 3 things bring a guy like that down: gold, glory, and girls. And I've traveled with him in the most difficult of circumstances. He's the same in private as he is in public. He spends 2 hours every day studying voraciously in preparation for whatever he's up against. He takes basically a Sabbath from sundown Saturday to sundown, or sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. And everything's off. He watches television because he loves football, and his family does, and that brings him joy. But he's not working. He's with his kids. He loves his wife. He's in the Word every day. It richly dwells in him. I love that man. So proud of him. So blessed by him.
And they're doing extraordinary things. I mean, Turning Point's doing extraordinary things.
He wakes up every day with hundreds of death threats.
I bet. No, I believe it.
He's like, it's a good day.
Well, it's like what you'd said, when we talked recently. You just, God has our days. Either we believe it or we don't. Yeah. And if we believe it, we better get out there and get the thing done that God's asked us to do.
Amen.
Rob McCoy, you're a national treasure. I love having you here. I do. I love it. This man flew up here for the day, and as soon as we're done here, you're getting right back to the airport, go home to your beautiful wife. So
I get to hang out with Jay.
Hey, man.
Jay rocks.
He does.
It was fun hanging out with you, but I enjoyed Jay too.
Well, we love you. Thank you, my friend, for coming on. It's just been a pleasure to have you.
Love you both. And all your listeners, thank you for supporting Heidi and Jay and the ministry they do. I can't tell you what it means to all of us that are in ministry. They have tirelessly served the Lord, and they continue to. So keep blessing them. So there you go. That's for you.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, my friend. I hope this has been an encouragement to you guys. I'm always encouraged when I'm with Rob. I told him last time, I'm like, every time I'm with him, he brings me to tears because the Spirit of the Lord's working so powerfully in him. And I hope you guys have been encouraged. Listen, get off the bench. Get onto the battlefield. There's work to be done, and you guys were born for this time in human history. Thank you so much for listening. And if you've got feedback, if you've got questions for me, you can go to HeidiSt.John.com/Mailbox Monday. If you want to check out my speaking season, you know how to do it. HeidiSt.John.com/events. We love you guys. Take care. And I'll see you right back here again at the intersection of faith and culture. Well, you guys ask me all the time about ways that you can disciple your young children, and I want to tell you about something I found that I think you're going to love. I am always searching for curriculum that's theologically solid, rich in apologetics, and wait for it, easy to use. And that's why I'm excited to tell you about the Answers Bible curriculum for homeschool from my friends at Answers in Genesis. This amazing program covers the entire Bible in just 4 years, and it was created specifically for kindergartners through fifth graders to be taught at the same time, which is going to save you time and simplify your day. You guys are going to get quality that you expect from AIG, and it's deep, fun, packed with truth, and designed to equip your kids to defend the faith. If you're ready to try it, head on over to answersbiblecurriculum.com/Heidi and download a free lesson to get started. That's answersbiblecurriculum.com/Heidi.